The late afternoon sun bathed the sprawling orange groves and olive trees of Golden Dream Farm in a warm amber and purple glow. The heavy air was thick with the sweet scent of orange blossoms and the earthy aroma of freshly watered soil. A balm for the soul, yet no solace for a troubled heart. Her name was Alma Lewis, and though her name suggested lightness and grace, her spirit felt weighed down, like the old gold bars her father-in-law, Thomas Tom Harding, kept locked away in ancient safety deposit boxes. She was 29 years old, and each morning she awoke on this remote estate near the sleepy village of Ashford in southern England. She felt her youth slipping through her fingers like fine sand. On this particular afternoon, as on many others, Alma found herself in the main greenhouse, dedicated to nurturing a family heirloom crop of fiery chili peppers, famously known in the region as Devil's Kiss. The heat inside was stifling, sticky with humidity, droplets of sweat trickling down her forehead, sliding along her neck, and disappearing beneath the fine linen of her white blouse, which clung softly to her skin, subtly tracing the contours of her slender frame. She wore a long cotton skirt patterned with delicate floral prints that swayed with every step, revealing the graceful curve of her ankles and the tan leather sandals that barely shielded her feet from the greenhouse's hot tiled floor. Atop her auburn hair, pulled back loosely, sat a straw hat, a treasured gift from her late grandmother, offering some protection from the merciless sun, though the thick air reduced its effectiveness. Despite the work gloves she wore, her hands retained the softness of city life, a constant reminder of the world she had left behind in London when she married Richard Harding, Tom's son. "Need a hand, love?" came a deep, gravelly voice, pulling her from her thoughts. Tom Harding was an imposing figure despite his age, his back bent from decades of labor on the land, his hands toughened yet surprisingly skilled. His deep-set eyes, shadowed with a hint of melancholy, regarded Alma with a mixture of gratitude and an inscrutable sadness. He was a man of few words, his presence filling any room with a silent gravity that often spoke louder than any speech. "Tom," Alma replied, trying to sound cheerier than she felt. "Yes, please." Richard was away on business in Manchester, and in his absence, Alma's days were reduced to tending the farm and enduring the quiet company of her father-in-law and his wife Margaret, a woman as frosty as the winter air outside. Few words passed between them, and their scarce interactions were limited strictly to necessity. Margaret, with her tall, angular frame and perpetually pinned-back silver hair, looked at Alma as if she were a foreign object, an unwelcome intrusion into her meticulously ordered world. Alma never understood the cause of this cold hostility, but Margaret's presence always cast a chill over the household. Together, Alma and Tom harvested the chilies in silence. Tom taught her how to recognize the perfect ripeness, his rough fingers brushing hers as he demonstrated, a touch that sent an unexpected shiver through her. There was a strange comfort in their shared quiet, a tacit connection Alma felt neither with Richard nor with Margaret. At times, Tom's gaze lingered on her hands, the bare curve of her neck, or the subtle swell of her collarbone, and though his eyes held innocence, Alma felt a faint electric current ripple beneath her skin. A peculiar mix of nervousness and fascination, as if his look could unlock a secret even she did not yet know. As evening fell, dinner was a solemn affair. Margaret served the meal with mechanical efficiency, and conversation was limited to monosyllables. Words seemed a luxury they could ill afford. Alma was the only one attempting to bridge the silence, sharing anecdotes from the day, small victories in the greenhouse, and plans for the next harvest. Margaret responded with curt nods, while Tom barely lifted his gaze from his plate. "Tom, these chilies are delicious tonight," Alma said, trying to coax some warmth. That a faint smile flickered at the corner of his lips, the first she had seen in days. "My girl, it's your touch. Your hands bring luck to these crops," he replied, his voice tender, almost. Margaret coughed, a dry, sharp sound, and the brief moment of warmth dissipated like smoke. The rest of the meal passed in its usual silence. The following day, with Richard still absent, Alma stayed on the farm to help. To her surprise, that night Margaret suggested they open a bottle of fine English dessert wine that Tom kept for special occasions. It was unusual, almost festive, in an otherwise gloomy house. The glasses clinked, and for the first time in a long while, a lightness filled the dining room. Encouraged by the wine, Tom began recounting stories from his youth. How he had cultivated the land, the hardships he had endured. His voice, usually a murmur, now rang with passion. It was fascinating to watch his eyes spark with the glow of nostalgia. But the wine took its toll. Tom yawned deeply and soon dozed off in his chair, his head drooping onto his shoulder. Margaret and Alma carefully covered him with a blanket, whispering not to wake him, before retreating to the kitchen. The only place they felt safe from prying ears under the dim bulb, their faces carved deep shadows on the walls. "Your husband and you seem quite close," Alma ventured, noticing the rare glances they exchanged, a connection that seemed unbreakable despite their silence. Margaret smiled. A small, enigmatic curve of her lips. "Oh, Alma. With time, words become unnecessary. We understand through a glance, through silence. It's a different kind of love, I suppose. Tom is a man of few words, but I know what he thinks, what he feels. That's the breath of our marriage." This unspoken complicity, her eyes drifted into the distance, as if reliving a distant memory. Alma felt deeply moved. How wonderful it would be to have such a connection with Richard. They talked late into the night, sharing stories and secrets, and for the first time in ages, Alma felt truly connected to another soul in this house. The next morning, Margaret left early to deliver a basket of oranges to old Mr. Parsons, the neighboring farmer. The estate fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the birdsong and the hum of insects. Alma and Tom met again in the chilly greenhouse. The air was even thicker than usual, the heat intensifying with each passing moment. Alma wore a light cream cotton dress cinched at the waist, falling softly to her knees, leaving her legs bare. Delicate silver earrings, gifts from her mother, tinkled softly with her every movement. Suddenly, Tom stopped, his face shadowed by a profound sadness. "Alma, my girl, tell me, did Margaret speak ill of me last night?" Alma froze. "What do you mean?" "No, Tom, quite the opposite. She said beautiful things about you. That you understand each other without words, that you share a deep bond." Tom sighed. A sound weighted with the world's burdens. "And oh, my girl, it's not like that. She wishes I weren't here. I can feel it, in the silence, in the air. She wants me gone." His voice cracked, his eyes, once melancholic, now swimming in pain that pierced Alma's heart. "She deserves to be free, to enjoy life without the burden of an old man like me." Alma was shattered. The words Margaret had spoken the night before, so sincere, now seemed a cruel facade. Had they both been deceiving each other all these years? Or was it all a tragic misunderstanding? "Don't say that, Tom. Margaret loves you, believe me." But he had already risen, his figure smaller than ever, stooped beneath the greenhouse's glass ceiling. The air felt heavy, charged with overwhelming emotion. "Oh, Alma. It's better if she goes on without me. She'll be free at last." He turned and started walking toward the far end of the greenhouse, where the tools were kept. His silhouette blurred among the plants, each step echoing his despair. "Tom, she doesn't think that way. She adores you," Alma called after him, her words drowned by the hum of insects and suffocating heat. He didn't answer. His voice barely a whisper drifted through the thick air. "That I am very lonely, Alma. Very lonely." She stood frozen, her heart tightening. The sweet scent of orange blossoms mingled with the spicy aroma of chilies in a strange olfactory symphony. Amid it all loomed the shadow of a secret, an unspoken truth devouring Tom's soul. Alma didn't know how to help a man so broken by pain and misunderstanding. The image of him, bent and small, fading into the greenhouse's darkness, seared itself into her memory. The afternoon stretched like a worn, tired cloth over Golden Dream Farm as Alma wrestled with a knot in her stomach, a dark premonition pressing on her chest. How could Margaret have spoken so tenderly of her husband the night before, only for Tom to feel such desolation? The contradiction drilled mercilessly into her mind. A mystery unresolved amid the apparent stillness of the English countryside. Her cream cotton dress, once light and airy, now felt heavy, suffocating, as if it absorbed the farm's sadness. The silver earrings no longer chimed with joy but echoed a mournful toll with every movement of her head. That night, the dinner atmosphere grew even tenser. Margaret seemed to sense Alma's unease. her eyes fixed on her with unusual curiosity, as if trying to unravel her thoughts. Tom was more withdrawn than ever, barely touching his plate of cold vegetable stew. His eyes clouded with deep sorrow, avoiding Alma's gaze. The silence was an impenetrable wall, thicker than the humid air itself. Alma tried to fill the void with trivial chatter about the harvest and the weather, but her words disappeared into a void of indifference after dinner. As Margaret withdrew to her sewing room, Alma lingered in the drawing room, lost in thought. Moonlight filtered through the windows, casting ghostly shadows on the walls. Suddenly, she heard quiet footsteps. Tom approached the old gramophone that Richard had restored, a dark polished wooden relic contrasting with the rustic furniture. With trembling fingers, he placed a vinyl record and lowered the needle. The room filled with the melancholic strains of an old English waltz. "Alma," his voice barely a whisper, "would you do me the honor of a dance?" Alma was stunned. Tom Harding, the man of few words, the silent pillar of the farm, asking her to dance. Her heart skipped a beat. She didn't know what to say, what to do, but the pleading in his eyes compelled her to accept. She slipped off her flat leather sandals, feeling the cold of the tiled floor beneath her bare feet. Tom stepped closer, his rough hands settling gently on her waist and her back. The unexpected touch sent a shiver she could not hide. They began to move slowly to the rhythm of the waltz. Tom was surprisingly agile for his age, guiding her with a tenderness that contrasted with his rugged exterior. Their bodies brushed softly. She felt the warmth of his skin through the thin fabric of her dress. Her fingers clutched his shoulder, sensing the hard muscles beneath, the steady pulse beneath his linen shirt. The waltz was a language of whispers and glances. He looked into her eyes with an intensity that disarmed her, and she lost herself in the depths of his sadness, the melancholy that seemed to seep from every pore of his being. With every turn and step, they drew closer. The music filled the room, drowning out the outside world, creating an intimate bubble where only the two of them existed. Alma felt a strange cocktail of emotions. Compassion for his pain, curiosity about the mystery that enveloped him, and an awkward, undeniable attraction. Her feet, unused to dancing, moved almost on instinct, guided by the gentle strength of his hands. Her bare calves brushed against his trousers, a barely perceptible touch that spread across her skin like static electricity at a T1 moment, as they twirled. His hand slipped from her waist to her hip, a fleeting, almost imperceptible caress that made her hold her breath. Their eyes locked, and for an instant, she saw more than sorrow. A spark of desire, a flicker kindling in the dark depths of his gaze. That it was a brief moment, barely a blink, but it imprinted itself on her mind. A blush rose to her cheeks, her heart pounding wildly. "Alma," he murmured hoarsely, "you don't know how happy this makes me." The dance ended, and silence reclaimed the room. His hands slipped away from her waist, but the echo of his touch lingered. She felt disoriented, confused by the intensity of what had just passed. Was it merely a dance? Or something more? A hidden meaning in their looks and touches? Without a word, Tom moved to the gramophone and turned off the music. Then, with the same slow grace with which he had appeared, he vanished down the shadowed corridor. Alma was left alone, heart pounding, the air thick with dust, old wood, and the faint scent of orange blossoms she wore. The moonlight still bathed the room, but now the shadows seemed to dance to a different rhythm. A silent waltz of unanswered questions. What was really wrong with Tom Harding? Why did she feel the strange connection to a man she barely knew, a man burdened by a secret too heavy to bear? The memory of his hand on her hip remained, a ghostly imprint, both invisible and unmistakable. That night, sleep was slow to come. The image of the waltz replayed endlessly in her mind. A dance of glances and whispered secrets, waiting to be uncovered. The farm, once a refuge, now felt like a cage. And she, a prisoner in a drama she was only beginning to understand. She wondered if Margaret, in her sewing room, sensed the same tension, the same foreboding that something was about to break. The night stretched over Golden Dream Farm like a heavy, silent velvet cloak. The waltz's echo haunted her mind, a ghostly melody refusing to fade. The sweet scent of orange blossoms, comforting by day, now felt oppressive, heavy with a mystery she could not solve. She tossed and turned in bed, unable to find rest. The image of Tom, his melancholy gaze, his hand brushing her hip during the dance, repeated endlessly, mingling with the disturbing revelation of his despair. Her light dress, discarded on a chair, looked pale and translucent in the moonlight. Like the truth slipping through her fingers at dawn. She woke early, her eyes swollen from sleeplessness. Breakfast was even tenser than usual. Margaret, with her stony expression, barely spoke to her. Tom avoided her gaze, as if the waltz had never happened. The fragile facade of normality was a thin veil over a deep current of pain and secrets. Her thoughts swirled in a storm. How could she, a stranger in this family, help a man so wounded? And what part did she play in this silent tragedy? Determined to understand, she sought out Tom in the greenhouse, where he was tending to his chilies as usual. The heat was oppressive, and his stooped figure seemed even smaller beneath the vast glass ceiling. She approached cautiously, her soft leather ankle boots making barely a sound on the damp earth. Tom. She whispered that he startled, meeting her eyes with surprise. And something else she couldn't quite place. I need to talk to you, she said, voice trembling. He nodded slowly, dropping the pruning shears. He sat on a small wooden bench, gesturing for her to join him. The closeness in the humid air was almost tangible. The scent of earth, plants, and the sweet heat of the devil's kiss peppers wrapping around them. Last night, what you said about Margaret, Alma began, hesitant. I don't think she feels that way. I believe your love is just different. A way of communicating. He sighed, a sound from the depths of his soul. Alma, my girl, his rough voice thick with emotion. I've been married to Margaret for 43 years. When we wed, I had nothing but this old farm and a handful of land. I couldn't take her on a honeymoon or buy her a proper ring. But she never complained, not once. I stayed silent, but she stood by me, no matter what. Tears clouded his eyes, but Margaret never uttered a word of reproach. She was his rock. Alma listened in silence, feeling his pain so vividly it almost burned. There were hard times, he continued, eyes fixed on his calloused hands. Crops failed, and some days we barely had enough to eat. Margaret ate barley bread so I could have the little rice we had. She never once blamed me. Only stood by me, always. Tears trickled down his sun-baked face. Alma's heart clenched at the image of a young Margaret, sacrificing for the man she loved, so different from the cold woman she knew now. But now, his voice cracked, I realize I have given her nothing back. Not a thank you, not an I love you.
I'm useless, Alma.
A fool. She deserves better. She deserves to be free of me. Don't say that, Tom. Alma cried, tears threatening. I'm sure Margaret is happy with you. She loves you. She said you understand each other without words. It's a deep bond. He shook his head, infinite sadness in his eyes. And oh, my girl. She pities me. Or worse. She's bored of me. A mute old man who lives only for his crops. I have nothing left to offer. She deserves a future without this burden. Her hands, resting on her lap moments before, now reached out instinctively to comfort him. The soft linen of her blouse stretched with the movement, revealing the delicate curve of her collarbone. Tom, your love for her shows. In your actions, your sacrifices. That's worth more than words. It's not too late to tell her. She'll understand. But he stood, smaller than ever beneath the greenhouse's glass roof. The air thick with immense emotion. No, Alma. A man like me, silent, clumsy, only holds her back. If I disappear, she'll be free. She can live the life she dreamed of without me. Alma was frozen. His words rang like a death knell. Disappear? Tom, what are you saying? Panic gripped her. The thought he might harm himself was unbearable. He didn't meet her eyes. His bent back seemed to carry the weight of despair itself. Every morning, waking to Margaret's face was my greatest joy. But lately, even that joy feels like a burden. I feel like I'm stealing her freedom, her happiness. Tears spilled from Alma's eyes. Her dress, now damp with dew from the greenhouse and her own tears, clung cold and sticky to her skin. The comforting smell of earth and spicy chilies was now the scent of desperation. And oh, Tom, she loves you, she shouted, but he had already turned, walking slowly toward the far end of the greenhouse, where the plants grew thick. His figure faded into the shadows, leaving Alma alone with a broken heart and a terrifying suggestion. Could a man so good, so full of unspoken love, truly come to such an end? Fear settled like ice in her chest despite the greenhouse's stifling heat. She stood motionless, staring at the place where Tom had vanished. Silence returned. A silence heavy with terror that a shiver ran down her spine. The farm, once idyllic, now felt like a prison. A cage of secrets and suffering trapped within its ancient walls. Could she, a mere outsider, prevent a tragedy? The uncertainty was overwhelming. The future of Tom, and perhaps the whole family, hung by a thread. The revelation left Alma in a silent panic. His words, "If I disappear, she'll be free," echoed like a verdict. The greenhouse's heat, once merely uncomfortable, became suffocating. As if Tom's despair had tainted the very air, she staggered out. Her light leather boots clicking on the dry earth, directionless and desperate, she had to tell Margaret. But how, without shattering the fragile facade of their marriage? That afternoon, the farm sank into a deeper silence than usual. Richard's absence was keenly felt. Alma needed someone to talk to, someone to help unravel the tangled web of emotions and secrets. She felt utterly alone. A stranger caught in a drama she barely understood, but in which she played a crucial role. Her cotton dress, now wrinkled and stained with sweat, clung like a second skin. A mirror of her inner turmoil at a tea dinner. She fought to act normal, but her mind was a tempest. She watched Tom carefully. His every move, every expression seemed dimmer than before. His gaze distant and chilling. Margaret, oblivious to the storm brewing, maintained her usual routine. Her face was a mask of control. The meal, a rich oxtail stew that would normally delight, tasted bland, almost bitter. Afterwards, Alma sought a pretext to speak with Margaret, to probe, to subtly warn her of Tom's profound sorrow. As they cleared plates in the kitchen, the faint scent of Margaret's lavender hair net contrasted sharply with the tension suffocating Alma. Mrs. Harding, Alma used the affectionate term Richard employed. "Are you sure Tom is all right? I've noticed he's seemed down lately." Margaret shrugged. A dismissive flick of her hand. "Tom's always been a man of few words. He's probably just tired from the work. Don't worry about him, love. He's like the old olive trees, silent but strong." Her calm certainty left Alma's words stuck in her throat. How could she explain the depth of despair she'd seen in Tom's eyes? It was as if they inhabited parallel worlds, unable to see or hear one another. But what if it's more than just tiredness? Alma pressed, voice barely above a whisper. Margaret's gaze froze her. "Alma, sometimes men get melancholic. Don't read too much into it. Besides, he said he'd be organizing the tool shed today. He likes to keep things tidy. That should pass it." Her sharp answer left Alma without a single argument. Frustration stabbed her. Margaret was unwilling or unable to see what Alma saw. Part of her wanted to scream, to shake her, to force her to listen. But the other part knew it would only build an even higher wall between them. For now, she resigned herself to watching and waiting. Night crept on slow and torturous. Crickets sang their monotonous chorus as a breeze whispered through the orange trees. The clock in the sitting room chimed 10, then 11. Tom had not returned from the tool shed. The unease Alma had tried to suppress grew in her chest, turning icy cold. Mrs. Harding, her voice trembled. "Tom still isn't back. Don't you think it's a bit late?" Margaret forced a smile that failed to reach her eyes. "Oh, Alma. Tom must have lost track of time, engrossed in some task. You know how he gets when he sets his mind on something. Don't worry." But her words didn't soothe Alma's rising dread. The image of Tom, small and bent, disappearing into the darkness of the tool shed, loomed larger in her mind. She couldn't ignore the ominous feeling, the shiver tracing her spine. Her flat sandals, worn all day, suddenly felt heavy, dragging her toward an uncertain fate. She rose, heart pounding. "I'm going to look for him," she declared, voice firmer than she felt. Margaret looked at her with a mix of surprise and exasperation. "Don't be foolish, Alma. It's night. It's not safe." But she was already at the door, the chill of fear sliding through her veins. "I have to," she murmured, stepping into the night. The air, once warm and fragrant, was now icy, carrying a foreboding chill. Stars blinked coldly, distant and indifferent to her growing terror. She hurried toward the tool shed, an old, slightly dilapidated building at the edge of the property. The moon cast ghostly shadows, twisting bushes into threatening shapes. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying a faint, mournful wail as she neared. She saw the shed's door ajar. A dark slit inviting disaster. A strange, acrid smell hung in the air. Smoke, something burning. Her heart leapt. "Tom!" she called, voice breaking with panic. She pushed the door open and was struck breathless. The tool shed was almost pitch black, broken only by a flickering red glow on the dirt floor. Tom lay motionless, sprawled on the ground. Beside him, a brazier smoldered, its coals emitting thick, choking smoke. The smell of burning charcoal mixed with something chemical and deadly overwhelmed her senses. Her throat closed. Breath abandoned her. "Tom, no!" she screamed, desperation strangling her words. She rushed to him. The slippery dirt floor beneath her feet, smoke stinging her eyes, nose, and throat. She tried to drag him toward the door, but his body was heavy, lifeless. Her hands, once gentle, gripped his clothes with frantic strength. The brazier's heat was intense. The sight of his pale, unmoving face filled her with unspeakable horror. She flung open every window and door, desperate for fresh air to clear the smoke. With monumental effort, she dragged Tom outside, under the starlit sky. His inert body collapsed onto the ground. The night's silence was deafening. "Mrs. Harding! Tom! Mrs. Harding!" she screamed, her voice torn apart by pain and terror. Tears streaked her dirt-smudged face, mingling with sweat. Her once pristine dress was now stained with earth and ash. A silent witness to the tragedy unfolding, Margaret, roused by her screams, burst from the house, horror etched on her face. Alma stumbled toward her, voice barely a whisper. "Tom. He's not breathing." Margaret collapsed beside him, trembling hands searching for a pulse, her face contorted with disbelief and terror. Alma fumbled for her phone, fingers shaking so badly she struggled to dial emergency services. The distant wail of an ambulance siren began to pierce the night, a sound foretelling an irreversible truth. But it was already too late. Tom Harding, the silent, melancholic man of Golden Dream Farm, was gone. Near where he had fallen, a crumpled piece of paper caught Alma's eye. Hands trembling, she picked it up. It was a letter, written in shaky handwriting. Margaret, eyes blurred with tears, snatched the letter and began reading aloud, her voice breaking with every word. "My dear Margaret, I feel the weight of years, of silences, of all that I could not give you. I wanted to set you free, to let you fly far from the burden that is me. I am sorry for the chains I have placed on your life, perhaps not the life you dreamed of. Please, let my absence release you, give you the chance to live the life you deserve. I beg your forgiveness for my cowardice, for never expressing the love I always felt for you. Thank you for everything, my Margaret, and goodbye. My last wish is for your happiness. Tom. Tears blurred the ink, and the fragile letter crumbled in Margaret's hands. The dawn broke over Golden Dream Farm with a pale, hesitant light, filtering through the dense canopy of orange trees and casting long shadows across the dew-soaked soil. Alma Lewis rose early again, her thoughts tangled in the threads of the previous night's revelations. The house was still quiet when she slipped into the kitchen, the scent of freshly brewed tea mingling with the faint, lingering aroma of spices from yesterday's meal. Her cream cotton dress, now carefully laundered but still carrying the faintest whisper of earth and ash, hung loosely over her slender frame. The delicate silver earrings she wore caught the soft morning light, glinting like tiny stars as she moved. She was acutely aware of the weight of the day ahead, not just the chores that awaited her in the fields and greenhouses, but the unspoken questions that clung to the air like mist. Margaret was already in the garden, her tall, elegant figure bent over a bed of marigolds near the greenhouse. Her silver hair was pulled back into a tight bun, a few wisps escaping to frame a face etched with grief and determination. Today, there was a softness in her eyes that hadn't been there before, a fragile hope that Alma clung to like a lifeline. "Good morning, Mrs. Harding," Alma called gently, stepping outside. The cool morning air was a balm, and the earth beneath her feet felt solid and real, a welcome contrast to the swirling uncertainties in her mind. Margaret looked up, offering a small, weary smile. "Morning, Alma. Ready for another day?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Alma replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. They worked side by side, tending the flowers and inspecting the young chili plants pushing through the soil. Alma noticed Margaret's hands were steadier now, the sharp lines of worry softened by purpose. "You're doing well?" Alma said, trying to infuse some cheer into the quiet morning. "Tom would be proud." Margaret paused, her gaze drifting to the horizon where the sun was beginning to warm the fields. "I hope so," she said softly. "It's strange, isn't it? How someone can be both so close and so distant at the same time." Alma nodded, understanding all too well. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than words, but it can also build walls. Margaret sighed, a sound heavy with years of unspoken feelings. "I suppose now I have to learn how to tear those walls down." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Richard, who appeared at the garden gate, his tall frame silhouetted against the golden light. His usually composed face was drawn with fatigue and sorrow, but there was a resolve in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Morning," he greeted, his voice rough but warm. "I've been thinking, maybe it's time to make some changes around here." Alma and Margaret exchanged a glance. The farm, steeped in tradition and the shadows of the past, was on the cusp of something new, something uncertain but necessary. As the day wore on, Alma found herself drawn back to the greenhouse, the place where so many of the farm's secrets had unfolded. The rows of chili plants stretched out like tiny warriors, their vibrant red fruits glowing like embers against the lush green. She ran her fingers lightly over the leaves, feeling the pulse of life beneath the surface. The air was thick with heat and the spicy scent of the chilies, a heady mixture that seemed to awaken something deep within her. Suddenly, a sharp noise from the tool shed startled her. A creak of wood, a muffled thud. Her heart skipped a beat. The shed had been the scene of so much pain and mystery, and its silence now felt ominous. Alma approached cautiously, her footsteps soft on the packed earth. The door was slightly ajar, just as it had been the night she found Tom. She hesitated, then pushed it open. Inside, the shed was dim and cluttered, filled with old tools and dusty crates. But on the workbench lay something new. A small, leather-bound notebook, its cover worn but cared for. She picked it up, the leather cool and smooth under her fingers. Flipping it open, she found pages filled with neat handwriting, sketches of plants, and notes in the margins. But what caught her eye was a folded piece of paper tucked between the pages. Unfolding it carefully, she read asterisk to whoever finds this, asterisk asterisk there is more to this farm, and to my story, than meets the eye. Secrets buried beneath the soil and hidden in the hearts of those who walk these fields. Asterisk asterisk if you seek the truth, follow the path where the orange trees touch the sky at sunset. There you will find the answer. Asterisk asterisk, T.H. Asterisk Alma's breath caught. Tom had left her a clue, a final puzzle to solve. Outside, the sun dipped low, casting a fiery glow over the orange groves. Alma's eyes traced the horizon where the trees seemed to reach up and touch the sky. A shiver ran down her spine. Not from the cooling air, but from the thrill of the unknown. What secrets lay hidden among the branches and roots of Golden Dream Farm? And who else might be watching, waiting, as the past began to unravel? As darkness fell, Alma wrapped herself in a light shawl, the cool night air brushing against her bare arms. The farm was silent but alive, holding its breath for the story that was about to unfold. She knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The sunset draped Golden Dream Farm in a fiery tapestry of gold and crimson, each orange tree's silhouette etched sharply against the burning sky. Alma wrapped her shawl tighter around her shoulders, the cool evening breeze teasing the loose strands of her auburn hair. Her fingers clutched the worn leather notebook, the cryptic note still vivid in her mind. If you seek the truth, follow the path where the orange trees touch the sky at sunset. She was no stranger to mysteries. Life had thrown enough her way since marrying Richard and moving from London to this quiet corner of Ashford. But this was something different. There was a weight to Tom's words that pulled at her, a promise of secrets long buried beneath the soil and the lives entwined with it. The farm was bathed in shadows now, the last light slipping beneath the horizon as Alma stepped carefully along the narrow dirt path winding through the groves. The scent of ripe oranges mingled with the earthy perfume of damp leaves, a heady fragrance that made her heart beat faster. Her cream dress fluttered softly with each step, the cotton fabric cool against her skin. The shawl concealed the delicate silver earrings that tinkled faintly whenever she tilted her head. Despite the chill creeping through the air, there was a thrill coursing through her veins. A strange, electric anticipation as she walked. The rhythmic crunch of her leather sandals on the gravel seemed unnaturally loud in the stillness. She paused, ears straining. Somewhere in the distance, a nightingale sang. A lilting melody that felt both soothing and mournful. The path curved sharply, leading her to a small clearing where the orange trees arched overhead, their branches tangled like the fingers of ancient giants. The sky above was a fading canvas of deep purples and blues, the first stars beginning to wink into existence. There, nestled beneath the largest tree, was a weathered wooden chest, half buried in the earth and covered with moss and vines. Alma's breath hitched. She knelt beside it, brushing dirt and leaves away, revealing intricate carvings. Swirling patterns that seemed almost Celtic in origin. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the heavy lid. Inside lay a collection of faded photographs, brittle letters tied with a faded blue ribbon, and a small, ornate key resting atop a folded map. Her eyes scanned the letters, the looping handwriting elegant yet hurried. Asterisk to my beloved Margaret. Asterisk one began. Asterisk I fear the darkness that creeps into our lives is not just the passing of years, but a shadow cast by those who once sought to claim this land. Hidden beneath our feet lies more than soil. Secrets that could unravel everything we hold dear. Asterisk Alma's pulse quickened. The story she thought she knew was far from over. The map was old, edges frayed, depicting the farm and surrounding woods with markings she couldn't immediately decipher. But a single phrase was clear. The Hollow of Whispers. A chill ran through her. The Hollow was a place of local legend. An ancient sunken grove deep in the forest where villagers claimed voices could be heard on the wind, carrying secrets of the past. She glanced up, the shadows around her thickening. A rustle behind made her spin, heart pounding. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall and cloaked, face obscured by the hood, looking for truths that might be better left buried. Are we? The voice was low, tinged with amusement and warning. Alma's breath caught, but she squared her shoulders. If secrets are the price of peace, then I'm willing to pay. The figure stepped closer, revealing sharp eyes that glinted in the moonlight. Eyes that seemed to hold centuries of pain and knowledge. Then come, the stranger said, extending a gloved hand. The Hollow awaits, and with it, the answers you seek. But be warned. Some truths burn hotter than the devil's kiss peppers you tend so carefully. Alma hesitated only a moment before grasping the hand. The night closed around them like a velvet curtain, and as they disappeared into the depths of the forest, the orange groves whispered behind them, carrying a promise and a warning on the wind. The story of Golden Dream Farm was far from finished. The forest loomed ahead like a dark cathedral, ancient trees towering high above, their gnarled branches weaving a dense canopy that swallowed the moonlight. Alma's heart pounded, each step accompanied by the soft crunch of leaves and twigs beneath her boots. The stranger's grip was firm but not unkind, guiding her deeper into the shadows where the air grew cooler and the scent of earth and moss thickened. She stole a glance at her companion. He moved with an effortless grace, the hood concealing much of his face, but the faint outline of a sharp jaw and piercing gray eyes shone whenever he turned toward her. His voice had the smooth, measured cadence of someone accustomed to secrets and silence. "Why are you helping me?" Alma asked, curiosity mingling with caution. "Who are you?" The man hesitated, then smiled. A brief flash of warmth that revealed a row of perfect teeth. "Names are fragile things," he said cryptically. "Call me Gabriel. I've known this land longer than you can imagine." Alma swallowed, the name carrying a strange weight, like the whispered rumors of a guardian or a ghost among the villagers. They reached a narrow hollow where the trees bent inward, their branches forming a natural archway, leaves shimmering faintly in the moonlight like a curtain of green silk. The hollow of whispers, Gabriel announced softly, stepping inside. Alma felt the atmosphere change. The air hummed with a subtle energy, as if the very earth beneath her feet held its breath. Around them, the wind stirred the leaves, carrying faint murmurs, half-words, echoes of voices long gone. She shivered, torn between fascination and unease. Gabriel knelt beside a patch of moss-covered stone, tracing the carved symbols with his fingers. This place has held many secrets over the centuries. Secrets of love, betrayal, and sacrifice. Your family's story is entwined with these woods. More than you know. Alma's gaze drifted to the map in her hands. What does it all mean? Why did Tom hide this here? Gabriel's expression darkened. Because some truths are dangerous. There are those who would do anything to keep them buried. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the clearing. Alma spun around, heart racing. From behind a tree stepped a woman, her eyes cold and calculating, lips curled into a sly smile. Playing detective now, Alma? She purred. Margaret. Alma's breath caught. Mrs. Harding? What are you doing here? Margaret's gaze flickered to Gabriel, then back to Alma. Some secrets, she said softly, are meant to stay hidden. Not all mysteries need solving. Gabriel rose, placing himself between them. Margaret, you know more than you say. The past is catching up. Margaret's smile faded, replaced by a hardness that chilled Alma to the bone. Be careful, Alma. Digging too deep can unearth things better left forgotten. The tension thrummed like a live wire in the night air. Alma felt caught between two worlds. The desire to uncover the truth and the warning that some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. As the wind whispered through the trees, carrying voices from the hollow, Alma realized the path ahead would be fraught with danger, betrayal, and revelations that could shake the very foundation of Golden Dream Farm. And somewhere deep inside, a question burned brighter than fear. Was she ready to face what lay buried in the shadows? The tension in the clearing was thick enough to cut with a knife. Alma's gaze flicked between Margaret's steely eyes and Gabriel's unwavering stance. The cold night air wrapped around them, the rustling leaves whispering secrets that only heightened the unease. Margaret's voice broke the silence, low and sharp. Alma, you don't understand what you're meddling with. This farm, this family, it's been built on sacrifices and silence. Some truths will only bring ruin. Alma felt a surge of defiance rise within her. Maybe, but silence hasn't saved anyone. It's cost us Tom. Margaret flinched, but her expression hardened further. Tom's death isn't just about secrets. It's about pride, stubbornness, and the past catching up. Gabriel stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. She's right about one thing, the past is catching up. But hiding from it won't make it disappear. Alma clutched the leather notebook tighter. Then what do we do? Where do we begin? Gabriel's eyes gleamed as he reached into his cloak, pulling out a small, weathered box. Inside this are relics from the farm's earliest days, artifacts that hold the key to understanding the curse that shadows this land. Margaret took a step back, unease flickering across her face. You don't know what you're talking about, she warned. Gabriel ignored her, opening the box to reveal a collection of ancient coins, a silver locket, and a faded parchment inscribed with symbols that sent a chill through Alma's spine. These items belonged to the original settlers, Gabriel explained. They made a pact, a deal forged in desperation. The land's bounty came at a price, and that price is still being paid. Alma's breath caught. A curse? Gabriel nodded solemnly. The Devil's Kiss peppers aren't just a family heirloom. They're a symbol of that pact. Their fiery bite is a reminder of the bargain struck centuries ago. Margaret's eyes narrowed. You think that's why Tom was so burdened? Because of some old superstition? Gabriel's gaze locked with hers. It goes deeper than superstition. There are forces at work. Forces that don't take kindly to being disturbed. Alma's mind raced. The weight of generations pressed down on her shoulders. The farm's beauty, its fruits, even its hardships. They all carried echoes of that ancient deal. Then what happens now? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Gabriel's expression darkened. Now we must decide, do we confront the past and risk everything? Or do we let the secrets lie and hope history doesn't repeat itself? Margaret's warning lingered in the air, but Alma knew her answer. The truth, no matter how painful, had to be unearthed as the wind stirred the orange blossoms above. Carrying their sweet scent into the moonlit hollow, Alma felt the first stirrings of a resolve that would lead her deeper into the shadows, and closer to a revelation that would change Golden Dream Farm forever. But with every step closer to the truth, the danger grew. And somewhere, unseen, eyes watched and waited, ready to protect the secrets at any cost.